Hello everyone and welcome to another game from day 3 of the St. Louis Rapid and Blitz event. We already saw one game yesterday where Magnus Carlsen won a very nice game against Maxim Vachiel-Lagrave in the Grunfeld defense. Here he faces his old rival from the 2016 World Chess Championship, Sergei Karjakin. It's Carlsen with the black pieces, so without further ado, let's just check it out. As again, it's a very nice game and a lot of you have requested it. So Karjakin opens with d4 with knight to f6, c4, e6, and now knight to f3. Carlsen goes for, well, he doesn't like knight c3 to invite Karjakin doesn't like knight c3 to invite Carlsen for the Bogo-Indian, so instead knight to f3. But still, bishop to b4 check. We have the Bogo-Indian defense, and now knight bd2. The most commonly played move is bishop to d2, just either asking black, do you want to trade right away, or do you want to retreat with the bishop? But here, we have knight bd2 by Karjakin, preparing a3, where you will either have to give up bishop for a knight, or you will have to go back with the bishop. So we have castles by Carlsen, a3 now as planned, and of course Carlsen retreats. He wants to keep his bishop pair. We have e4, white grabs the center, and then now d6. We have bishop to e2 by Karjakin, preparing the castle, and knight b to d7. We have queen to c2, and now c5, challenging the center. And now you can decide whether you want to just do something else, maybe castle, maybe decide to push on the queen side with b4, but Karjakin decides to grab more space in the center, so we have d5. And now there are a couple of moves that have been played here. Knight g4 has been played here, knight h5 has been played, rook e8 has been played, pawn captures pawn has been played. But the move Carlsen plays, closing the center, is a new move in this position, and it is already as a move 9 that we have a completely new game. So knight to f1 now, preparing knight g3 to maybe grab the f5 square with his knight. And a6 now. Carlsen prepares b6, maybe even b5 in some lines to fianchetto his light square bishop and get it into the game. We have knight to g3 as planned, and now g6 just preventing knight to f5. We have castles by Karjakin, and now comes knight to e8, now freeing the freeing this space for the pawn to be pushed to f5. You want to get f5, f4 in, and so on, as you do in most Indian defenses. With b4 by Karjakin, and now knight to g7, further supporting the f5 square. And now, if Karjakin did something like rook e1, most likely we would see f5, but here Karjakin goes bishop to h6, and here it would be a bit dangerous to play f5, as you would just, for starters, lose a pawn and pretty much ruin your structure in front of the king. For example, if f5, you also have to notice that the queen covers it, so just captures, and now you grab a pawn. If black recaptures, knight captures on f5, the queen defends the knight, and the black is just broken on the king side. So after bishop h6, we have b6 by Carlsen, preparing to fianchetto the light square bishop, and now rook 8 to b1. Karjakin is now ready to open up the b file. He wants to play rook b2 and bring the other rook over to b1 to double up rooks on the b file. With a5 by Carlsen, and then now just h3, taking away the g4 square from black, also making some more room on the king side for the king, but also maybe ideas like knight h2 to g4 will be possible in the future. We have king to h8 by Carlsen, and now comes rook to b2, preparing rook b1 as planned. A captures, and now knight back to f6, preparing knight to g8 to kick away the bishop from h6. And only then will Carlsen be able to execute f5. We have b captures on c5, b captures on c5, and I just want to mention something, doesn't really have anything to do with this game. A lot of you, not a lot of you, but some of you have been saying that watching my videos on your smartphones is hard due to the subtitles, but I don't turn on the subtitles. The subtitles are turned on your account. So if you want subtitles to disappear, you have to remove them on your own devices, as I don't have any sort of power, whether do I turn on or off the subtitles on your device. I just remembered that, so I thought I would just say it now. So Karjakin continues with his plan, rook f to b1, and now if you look at this position, Karjakin has a nice pin here on the king side. He has complete control of the b file with the rooks. Definitely white has the advantage here. With knight to g8 by Carlsen as planned, the bishop is now under attack, and here bishop back to d2. We have f5 finally by Carlsen, preparing f4 with rook to b8, captures, and now Carlsen pushes f4, kicks the knight back. We have knight to f1, now with ideas of knight h2, followed by knight to g4. And Carlsen continues pushing on the king side. We have g5. We have queen to a4 here, preparing bishop to a5 to activate the bishop and also harass the black queen. We have h6 by Carlsen, now strengthening the g5 pawn, and now we have bishop to a5 as planned. Queen to d7, Carlsen now offers a trade of queens, and if you did this, then black would just be able to trade down, and Carlsen wouldn't really have any problems here. So here Karjakin says, okay, let's trade queens, but we will trade queens on my terms. If you want to trade queens, you have to capture on c6, and this will give me a nice passed pawn on c6. So first Carlsen goes knight to f6, now preparing to bring the knight into the game. Also, if captures, the knight can capture on d7. Also, maybe ideas like h5 and g4 are possible, and now Karjakin starts getting the knight into the game. We have knight f1 to d2, and here Carlsen captures. We have queen captures, d captures, and now knight to e6, getting the knight to help out well with the pushing of the pawn, and also now Carlsen is ready to play bishop a6. So Karjakin prevents it with rook to a8, not allowing bishop to a6 for Carlsen to trade more material, but Carlsen finds a way. He plays bishop to d8, and now he says, okay, if you capture my bishop on c8, then I capture on a5, and then after we trade rooks, check, check, the knight is under attack, you have to play something like knight b3 or knight b1, I'm going to move the bishop back, and then I'm going to go after your c6 pawn, which is now a weakness, not a strength, something like knight, well, you can play knight g6, maybe knight e7, and then harass the pawn this way. So instead, after bishop to d8, Karjakin doesn't capture on c8, Karjakin captures the bishop with bishop captures on d8, rook captures on d8, and now bishop to d1. Now getting the bishop activated via the a4 square. We have knight to c7, attacking the rook, and now rook to a7 by Karjakin. Knight f to e8, and here comes knight to h2. We have bishop to e6 by Carlsen, and now bishop to h5, just putting pressure on the knight there. And here we have rook to c8, which is not the best idea. Here, best for Carlsen is king g8 and king f8. The king has to help out with the defense here. But Carlsen played knight to c8, and Karjakin found a very nice way of how to take advantage of this position. So feel free to pause the video here and try to find this sneaky idea Karjakin played in this position. While I give you a couple of seconds, for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations, you are an excellent finder of good squares for the knight. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, knight to g4. Just attack the h6 pawn, and black has no ways of defending the pawn. Because if you play something like king defense, king g7, then white just wins a piece. Bishop captures on d8, on e8, and well, you cannot capture as the knight is pinned. If rook captures, then you lose the other knight with check as well. So after knight g4, we have bishop captures on g4. Magnus is forced to give up the light square bishop here. We have bishop captures attacking the rook, and now rook to a8. Carlsen hopes to trade more material, but Karjakin says no, no sir. We have rook to b7, and now it's very hard for Carlsen to make a move. Well, if you move this knight, you lose this knight. And there's not all that much to do. This knight doesn't have all that many squares. You could go to a6, but where's the knight going from a6? So Carlsen starts activating the king. We have king to g7, and now Karjakin plays bishop to d7. It's the same idea when we explained why the king cannot come here. The threat is bishop captures here as the knight on c7 is pinned. So king to f6, Magnus gets out of the way, and now knight to b1. And here, knight to b1, as usual, the strongest and hardest move to find is with the knight back. With knight b1, Karjakin now plans knight to c3 and knight to b5, from where there will be yet more attack to the knight on c7. You cannot defend it further as the bishop guards the c8 square, and of course if black captures, you will then be able to fix your pawn structure, and you will have two connected passed pawns on the queen side. So this is Karjakin's plan. We have knight to a6 by Magnus, preparing to bring the other knight over there with knight to a6, and here you could capture on e8, but Karjakin decides to just continue with his plan. We have knight to c3, We have knight e to c7, and now just knight to b5. So did this really do anything for Magnus? Not really, as the threat is still the same. If you capture, you get two connected passed pawns here. There's really no playing this. Knight c7, b6, whatever you play, knight a6, c7. There's just no stopping the pawns here. So after knight b5, we have knight to e6 by Magnus, and now comes bishop captures on e6. King captures on e6, and now we get knight to a7. Not pushing c7 right away. So first knight to a7, taking away the c8 square from Carlsen's rook, so you cannot stop the passed pawn. With h5 by Magnus, he no longer has a move on the queen side, so he decides to push on the king side. With f3 and now g4. H captures, Karjakin just grabs the pawn. With f captures and now rook to g8, as Carlsen just created a target on g4. We have king to f2, and now rook captures on g4, and now rook to b6. Also, very nice idea with c7 here. For example, if c7, you have to give up the knight, you just grab it, and then rook to g3, where Karjakin would now have a full knight up, but he would be down a pawn. But he decides that this is maybe too much work, as he's very low on clock, under a minute. So he decides for a different idea. He plays rook to b6, attacks the knight, knight to c7, and now knight b5. Again, with the same idea. Either you capture and I fix my pawn structure, or I grab your knight. So we have rook to g7 by Carlsen defending, and now rook to b7. And here you have to now do something. There is no more, horsing around. We have knight to e8, and here Karjakin played rook to b8. Again, harassing the knight, but also a very interesting idea was just capturing the rook. Rook captures, knight captures, and now c7, allowing king to d7. The king now stops the pawn, but of course you will see how white wins here. It's a very nice idea. You just capture here. And now if you capture with the king, white gets a queen into the game. If you don't do anything, the c8 square is now protected by the knight, so you would have to capture the pawn here. And now knight f7 goes after the e5 pawn. You cannot defend it, as the knight also covers the d6 square, so the king cannot approach the pawn. And it would just be a winning endgame. But, time is very scarce on the clock, so Karjakin goes for a more natural line. Rook to b8, attacks the knight. We have knight to c7, and here Karjakin just plays rook to d8. And it was in this position on move 53 that Magnus Carlsen resigned the game. As there is nothing more to do here, really you don't have any moves. You could capture on b5, but then c captures on b5. The two connected passed pawns are just monsters. If you don't do this, just rook captures or knight captures here is the threat. You're gonna lose a very important base of the pawn chain, so all the other pawns will fall as well. And even though Karjakin had, I believe, 11 seconds in this position, Carlsen had over a minute, it doesn't really matter, as you do have a 10-second delay. So before you play any move, you get 10 seconds before that. So it's really not a problem. There was no way of flagging the opponent here. But yeah, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it, and I will mention the standings, as I don't know if I will have time to make more videos today from the rapid section. So if you're not interested in the standings, close your eyes or something. But here are the standings. Are those the standings really so small? Sorry, I'm on my laptop, still haven't figured all of it out. But there you have it. After 3 days of rapid, in first place with 13 points, Maxim Vachier-Lagrave and Levon Aronian. Levon was leading the entire tournament, but then Maxim caught up. Then with 10 points, Ding Liren and Yu Yang-yi. And then Magnus Carlsen, Fabiano Caruana, Sergei Karjakin, and Richard Rapport with 8 points. Dominguez Perez Linier with 7. And Shahriar Mamedyarov last with 5 points. So really, Mamedyarov, sometimes he just obliterates the opposition with clinching first place, but sometimes he just trolls around in last place. And we'll see what Carlsen will be able to do. He's now in 5th place with 8 points, but it will be hard to get back on top in this tournament, as now we have the 2 days of Blitz section. And for Blitz, you only get 1 point per victory, as in Rapid you get 2 points for victory. So basically those who win the Rapid section mostly win the entire tournament. But you never know, what will happen. So yeah, once again, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Abdesalam for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, really appreciate it. as usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of this nice event when I return to my hometown tomorrow, checking up on your wonderful suggestions, and of course, continuing the Capablanca saga, which is very close to the end. So thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.